recording to the... Yay. Oh, thank you for coming. I need your energy today. It's been quite a crazy time. Lots going on. Loving it. But let's just say long day, late night, late lessons. More people coming out of the woodwork with the dreaded focal dystonia issue, which is proving to be far more prevalent in our society than you may ever guess. Quite extraordinary, in fact. So I met a couple of wonderful bass trombone players. Do you believe 2 guys from the one orchestra in London have developed this horrendous condition? It's everywhere. And a lot of what I'm learning about that is so relevant to what I want to talk to today. I'll just mute everyone. So sorry, please don't be offended if you see your microphone go off. I'm going to get straight into it because there's a lot to do. Now, I preface today with just a little backstory. I had the honor and privilege of meeting Bobby Shew, one of the great players. I play his Yamaha trumpet. I play mouthpieces. He's the main man that made me... I walked into the lesson going, Bobby, I think I'm doing a lot of things wrong. And an hour later, I walked out going, yep, I was right. I knew that I was, but I didn't know what or how. All I know is that when I teach it together, I'm blowing as hard as I can. I'm getting migraines. How I didn't end up with hernias, I don't know. I've got a little bit of a swell in the neck, but not much. The main thing that he did was go, where's your air going? And I went, and he goes, no, you got to get the air out straight. Okay. To me, that made sense because he got up first thing in the morning and played low C to double C pianissimo chromatic scale. 9 o'clock first thing. It's like, I can see why that's working. I can see how that's working. His chops are just blooming. Whoa. Well, best of the best. Best of the best. One of the most famous teachers ever, understandably. But I've been getting a lot of questions over the last couple of years, and I've kind of avoided the chat because what I say today, I certainly do not want in any way, shape or form to come across as disrespectful. It's not at all. We're having a chat about some of the things that can arise when we start working through a breathing system called the wedge breath. Now, I, of all people, know what it's like to be misconstrued as well. And I've got lots of ideas in my head and I try and get them across as concisely as possible. And if you only hear a small bit of the story, what's it like it's the elephant. If you touch an elephant's tail and don't see the rest of it, you might think it's a snake. Right. So we need to know the whole story. We need to see everything in order to get the full picture. And I think that's where a lot of this gets confused. At the end of the day, the issues that people have when they're working on it, and I can speak from experience because I was going through the same thing, is overexerting and closing off in the throat. Now, I always played from the day I started with the Valsalva maneuver going on. An engagement in the abdominal muscles and a closure in the throat. And for some reason, I don't know the anatomy behind this, but all I know is that I can still manage to open it up and talk, or I can still manage to open it up when I tongue. But it's like, oops, sorry, camera. Right. So I can be fully engaged, but still release air with the tongue. I know it so well because I played like it for 15 years and I knew it was wrong. So, excuse me, I'm just going to turn some microphones off. Sorry, guys. And then I'm feeling it more and more as I went to university. I went to the College of the Arts at the Melbourne University, and I was playing some lead trumpet, and it was all like this, right? And then, so I knew that was going on. And then when I happened to be on, I left after 1 year and did a Blues Brothers band tour up the east coast of Australia because I just needed to get away from college after the year. It was overwhelming. I learnt a lot, but I needed a break. And then I went back and finished the course. So in the second year, I did a 16-week tour up the east coast of Australia in a Blues Brothers show. I was lucky enough to meet Bobby in Cairns, and we had this session in the morning, and we did the wedge breath, and it's a 6-step breath that I'll go through with you. And then I finished the tour and went back to uni. So what happens now? The start of a breath, and it's all related to Pulit KMTN2 because it's a release of energy. So what we're discussing today is the means in which we can energize the lungs, which I call it that now. I don't call it breathing, even though of course we're breathing, but let's call breathing what the body does naturally. It does it 24/7. And if it doesn't, you've got a pretty stone in a garden somewhere, right? But if it's doing this, you don't have to think about it. No RAM. It's just natural. All right? So that's breathing. That's the body staying alive. If we want to play a wind instrument, it's fairly advisable to not rely on this because you're not going to have much power. Or you can do that, and then you have to engage all the muscles in the body to push, to get any kind of compression. Sound is compression, compressed air particles. Clap, bounces off my eardrum. That's what sound is. But if you only breathe to here, you got to squeeze the body, squeeze it. Have a listen to what it does to my voice. Squeeze everything out to create enough energy to put life into a wind instrument. I had a dear friend from Melbourne last night, professional woodwind player, come on, and he was practicing piccolo while we were talking about this. Across the board, this is useful. Piccolo's a Helmholtz resonator, but you still need the body's concert hall. Oh, that's where the sound happens. And when he opened that up years ago on his tenor sax playing and his flute playing, changed his life. And he still walks around with all his students 10 years later talking about body's concert hall. It's wicked, right? Energize the lungs. Let go. I think we can all agree that the longer I hang on to this, if I try and throw the arrow at all, I've got another pretty picture coming from my wonderful graphics man who's doing such great work. If I, for 1 microsecond, try and throw the arrow, the minute that I hang on to this going that way, I've reduced energy already. Throw. I want to let go of it, Zen in the art of archery, at the highest tension. So we pull back and then we release, and we don't even really want to think about that, at the highest tension. So we can all agree that there's energy there that is bigger than what is to sustain life, right? Drop. When I say the word drop, I don't mean we've lifted the shoulders and dropped down. I mean expansion, let go. Okay, so we can all agree that I do not need to squeeze this balloon for the air to come out. If anyone has a problem with this, speak now or forever be silent. Right? If anyone here goes, Greg, yes, you must use your hand to squeeze the balloon out. Let's talk either in private or now. I don't think anyone's going to put their hand up, right? So we can all agree that without having to squeeze the balloon, I can let air out. Done. That is a passive release of energy, or let's say it like this, a release of passive compression. Why is it passive? Because I'm not squeezing the balloon. That's actively creating more compression in the balloon. Okay, so when we do that, let's go. Oh, I can't do this. I need 3 arms, 3 hands. So we've got that. If I'm doing that, I can't do that. I need somebody else here to squeeze the balloon for me. But if I was doing it and then you squeeze the balloon, it might make the pitch go up just a little bit, right? But if I do this, the pitch of that, sounding like a dying duck, happened because of what happens where the air's coming through, right? All related. So in energizing the lungs, and I'm only going to talk about this for 1 minute, time me and stop me if I go longer. We push our hands in to our abdominal wall, breathe out. Push your hands into your abdominal wall, breathe out, empty your lungs, push your diaphragm all the way up and get every last bit of air out of your lungs, right? Push. Then if you release your hands, let the beer investment fall out, right? Let the belly fall out. It drop. Thank you, Mike. You're too kind. Drop the abdominal wall and the diaphragm drops. And that opens up a vacuum in the lungs. Squeeze out, squeeze out. When you let go, the diaphragm drops because the abdominal wall goes out. The diaphragm drops and air goes. Have a listen. Have a listen. Right. That was about 60 seconds. You release the abdominal wall, belly falls out, diaphragm drops, air comes in. That's the first step of a good breath. Look up Feldenkrais breath or look up the first step of the wedge breath. Perfect. So there, we kind of just get above atmospheric pressure. All right, just a little bit. So then what do? We have to expand the lungs. Now, this is where things get interesting because there is Yogi Ramacharaka. He's a yogi science of breath guy. The complete breath. Turns out there are 2 options because I studied the complete breath. And what he says is you want that drop, then breathing upwards and the ribs go out. Lower ribs, middle ribs, upper ribs. Then collarbones. So that's what I garnered from Yogi Ramacharaka's complete breath. Now, I did that the second time I got to meet Bobby. I picked him up from the airport, and I kid you not, I'm driving. Greg, don't talk about trumpet. Greg, don't talk about trumpet. Greg, don't talk about trumpet. And he's in the back seat with a guy named Scotty Tinkler, great trumpet player from Melbourne. I have my friend Paulie Williamson, who was on Sunday Sessions not long ago. And Bobby, within about 5 minutes of being in the car, has got a $1 note out and was telling us how he just played a big band gig and he played this double D that I had to hang on to It's the biggest double D I'd ever played, and the whole band turned around and man, shit, Bobby, that sounds huge, man. And he's loving it. It's great, right? He's super loving it. Terrific. And he's got a dollar bill out. And he's demonstrating, and he talks about air pivots. I'm not going to go into air pivots today, but he's just demonstrating. I will share with you guys a video that I got sent from a particular person in New York who demonstrates that and goes, I hate it. But that's for another time. Ooh, Max Ganano knows exactly who I'm talking about. Right? The release of energy. You can see it, you can hear it, and you can feel it. It's very important. When you go from a player like this, which I was, to a player that I am now, to train the body to do that and is basically essential. I don't think it's optional, but let me give you a little. I can start talking to you like that. Doesn't sound good, doesn't feel good. Or I can. And I can talk to you, and it's like this. It's a whole different ballgame. I don't know whether you could pick the difference in the sound over these mics, but in the room, it's ridiculous, right? Less lip, less work, more body resonance, all tied in. Right? So we've got the drop of the start of the breath. Then we start to expand the ribs. And of course, those that know the wedge breath would know that the second step is back in to the core. Fine with that. Then up. Elevate the lungs upwards. Lift up. Okay? Now, you watch Doc Severinsen playing. There's a lot of players do that. Again, I'm not telling people not to do this. I'm just talking about the issues that I've seen arise and I dealt with. I don't do it anymore. I do the first option, the expansion. But when Bobby was in my kitchen and I'd been working on this, he said to me, what's everyone breathing like that for? And I've gone, well, I just kind of read the book and that's kind of what it said. And he goes, no, because if you don't go straight up, you might get a arch in the lower spine. And when you're compressing, it might do your spine damage. I'm, whoa, rightio. I'll take that on board. Absolutely. Okay. But there was tests done. Let me just say this out loud. That by the time I get my breath in, I'm full. Now you saw at the top of the breath, this is Yogi 1 breath. We'll get to the Yogi 2 breath in a minute. Yogi 1 breath was expansion, collarbones go up. There's expansion. I can't, if I lift my shoulders, the lungs aren't going to expand anymore because I've expanded round ways, right? If you don't breathe out and up in the ribs and you breathe back in and up, then we're stretching upwards, okay? That's fine. Now this is where the issues arise because you want to drop down. So I've dropped down and lock. Now the psychology here is that when you lock, you've got compression. To which I go, no, you don't. And that's a big call, but we don't. I'm going, okay, now I'm talking. I'm engaging my abdominal muscles like I'm about to be punched. They're really engaged, but there's no compression. Okay. The only way you can compress air is to have it being blocked somewhere, right? And I'm not, again, not for a second suggesting that Bobby's saying that's compression, but the psychology behind it is that's compression. And it's not. It's just an engagement of muscles, and you can hear the strain put on my throat. And I've seen people doing this going, and I was one of them. I can't play like this. I'm too loaded up. And then I come down and I do that. Right. If the compression has to be in the throat, do that. I don't like it personally. I don't think that's the intention, by the way. But those of you that are regular viewers at Sunday sessions, or subscribers in the course, know that my number one mantra is let's not use anything until we need it. Let's eliminate any it's 7 o'clock on a Monday morning. Give me a break. Let's eliminate any unnecessary or involuntary muscular activation. For pure efficiency, we only use the muscles that are required, no more, none more. We only use the muscles that are required to play. All right. Again, we don't need to squeeze the balloon, okay? So we're filling the lungs, energizing the lungs that way. I did a masterclass with Adam Rapper in Copenhagen, 5.5 hours. I did the first 2.5. I refused to go after him, but he organized it, and he sat there and asked questions, and it was great. And he goes, we were all talking at university, and they're like, you can't get more energy in the lungs, and you can't create more compression doing the wedge up and down than that way. It's like, no, you can't. There's a maximum compression. You can only compress the air so much. We're all limited. Okay. So my studies and experimentation and trial and error over many, many years has been to let go of what we don't need and recognize that there is a tendency to want to lock up and overexert in the process of doing the steps of the wedge breath. And again, it's not the intention, but it's the byproduct of doing it incorrectly. Rightio. So firstly, if you come down, you're going to feel a lot of tension in here. It's the complete opposite of doing your body's concert hall breath and going, all right, opening the airway up, letting it go. All right. So then we've got the compression moving out of the body. That's passive compression there. I've just blown my inner balloon up and dropping. Okay. Or we can do that. Or that's passive. Now, of course, the idea behind the wedge breath is being active, engaging the abdominal muscles. Yep, we need to do that. We absolutely do. But when and how much? So that's why I've got a teaching strategy called going to the extremes. What can I let go of? The 1% rule. Is there anything in the system anywhere? Scan the body. What's engaging that we don't need? No, stop it. No, right? There's nothing needs to engage anywhere in the body. Right? So if there is something engaging that's unnecessary, we need to eliminate it. And so if I demonstrate, that's the hardest part of playing, is blowing up the balloon. The hardest part of playing is pulling the bow back. That's the active bit. The playing bit hasn't started yet. Then when we let go, if the mouth is shaped in the right direction, in the right shape for a particular pitch, and you let the body go, and we just let the balloon go, let the arrow go, there is passive compression. Now, I know that there's a psychology that if you don't engage the abdominals, you're not going to be able to play. Well, I say that playing's no harder than humming, talking, and singing. And people don't like that idea at times. Other people love it, that get it, right? It's a really tough one. But at the end of the day, how much are we engaging when we're talking? Can we energize the lungs? Drop. Oh yeah, you can make a fair bit of sound there. There's quite a bit of energy there. There's a lot of energy there, and it's passive because the body's let go. So we're going, hang on a minute. If I move the oscillation point from here to here, there's not a bad sound coming out for 7 o'clock in the morning, right? And there's no engagement in the body, okay? So with Pulip Ku KMT2 and with the wedge breath, the issue is on the turnaround from the breath in, which is the pullback of the bow, to when we let go. Now, this is a roller coaster. Don't kick over the top. We're just going to go up and fall. Because if we're going to engage, there's every likelihood that this will crimp up, the throat will close. The body doesn't want any junk going down the esophagus. It closes the throat off at the transition from inhalation to exhalation. I spent hour upon hour back in the days, this early 20s when I, oh, hang on, no, well, it was 93 when I met Bobby. Crikey, that's 30 years ago. Wow. So around that time, doing a lot of work with the breathing bag, and I was reading Song and Wind, Arnold Jacobs, because a tuba player put me onto this stuff. It's great. So I've been learning this stuff for a long time, and getting the sensation of and the turnaround, keeping it open. All right. Felt ridiculous. I can't play like that. But the physics books suggested that maybe you can. What's my 3-word term when I'm trying to learn something new? It has to be based on a new belief system. The words, this must work. I can't do it. It feels ridiculous, but I'm refusing to play like this anymore. Not doing it. So you got to understand the system in order to be able to change it. So I'd sit there for ages with my little mirror. Play like that, Greg. Play like that. Play like that. Play like that. Play like that. And I'd be on gigs, tapping myself on the shoulder because I'm recognizing how inefficient I am. Going, that's okay. You'll get there, mate. Just you're working on it. Just keep working. Just keep working. Frustrating, I know. Been there, done that. So at the transition from inhalation to exhalation, expansion to drop, down, the throat can go. Valsalva maneuver, abdominal contraction, closed throat. It's really beneficial if you're going to lift 100 kilograms. It protects the spine. You know, when you go to lift a heavy weight, we go, that's good, so you don't herniate or whatever. Apparently childbirth and defecation, 2 times where the Valsalva maneuver becomes quite important. Now Valsalva apparently is an Italian ear, nose and throat specialist. That's going to be for one of the down the rabbit hole links that you might see slowly starting to infiltrate the Windworks Trumpet Academy online course. We go down the rabbit hole. We look at these things, right? So what can happen? We can all agree. If I breathe in, expand the lungs, Yogi 1, and drop the body and close the lips, the voice, the throat could go. It doesn't have to. Right? And there's a picture called the airlock. You might as well, because I've shared this link to my whole database and we're going out on Facebook, so I might as well do a couple of these as we go along. The psychology is we have to blow our lips together. So what happens? No matter how hard we blow, whether it's passive or recognize, try this, sitting here watching. If you go to become active and you've sent the message, no air shall escape these lips, you watch how the lips tighten up. They'll just fight against all of the air, all the compression, and the lips shall be victorious every single time. If I were you, I'd get behind the lips. That's where the money's at. They are not going to be able to be blown apart. Okay. So with that in mind, we can come to the summation that we're already strong enough, and it's a matter of what we need to let go of to play efficiently, right? So we'll come back to that in a minute. In the drop, we want to go down, and this, okay, that's causing compression in the throat. We don't want that to happen. So the poo attack is a release of passive compression. Passive compression. And again, the psychology is if you stay passive, you can't play. Let's find out. That was passive. That sounded okay. Let's try this one. That was passive. That was okay. Ah, ha, 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 ha. By the time I get to G above the stave, it's really quiet. So what do? We need to, here's pitch from the sides. Oops, daisy. This works. This works. This works. Sorry, I'm an idiot. Right, lip zips from the side. There's your pitch. Opening of said pitch is volume. Right? So I'm staying passive and getting to G above the stave, but it's soft. There is a psychology that you have to blow faster, harder to change pitch. The pitch comes from the aperture itself. It's the Bernoulli principle. Let's go down the rabbit hole. It's the aperture itself that determines the pitch. And whilst the compression behind it, if it's in an even flow, you saw what just happened then. That was passive compression. Now, if we become active, it's going to tighten up the system a little bit. So the flow, the velocity of water or air through that aperture will increase a little bit as you start to engage more. But of course, what are we on the lookout for? Going down Valsalva maneuver, throaticulation. So the psychology that the body creates pitch is very dangerous because it creates the Valsalva maneuver. It creates a lockup and it involves or over engages, overblowing, over compressing, burning the pizza, whichever term you'd like to use. Too much combustion, too much heat, too much energy for the note that you're trying to play. Rightio. So compression in the body, whilst to a degree you could argue does have an implication with pitch. All I'm focusing on there is the body just increasing internal compression, and I can start to feel a bit of strain coming in. But that's it. I'm limited. I cannot, no matter how hard I blow, I cannot get that next frequency to pop. I can't do it. And someone might say, oh, I'll just tighten your aperture corners or tighten your lips. Now's the time for this one. My regulars, I apologize. You understand. Here's the lip zip. Outside of the rim, outside of the mouthpiece cup. Zipped. We want as minimal movement as possible outside the rim. Inside the rim's where all the action happens, right? So the lip zip, latest fashion accessory for brass players. The zip's coming in or activating. I'm not inside the mouthpiece, I can't tell. But the lips activating change the velocity of flow through the lips. So I can change the velocity to a degree. That's it. I'm limited. I cannot blow to get to that next frequency. How about we don't blow at all? Passive release. I change the zips, milk spout out, bottom lip. Get the energy through. Bobby says the lips are the biggest hindrance to the airflow, right? Absolutely. We've got to get the energy through. But here's the zips here, there, outside the rim, U shape, milk spout. Get the energy through. That shape there, it's like a pedal tone. It doesn't matter what note it is. It's a feeling, it's a sensation, it's an understanding. It's an understanding that this is not the way to play. It took me a long, long time to overcome that. We've all heard that sound before, right? Doesn't need to be the case. Does not need to be the case. It only comes from the fact that we're teaching people to talk by teaching them to strangle themselves. And they go, rightio, okay, now that you've got that, let's slowly start to relax the voice and open up sound. Why start there? Let's start from a no note. God, I could go down that rabbit hole for a while. Welcome to my Monday morning rant. Rightio. So we've got the poo attack. If I don't blow harder, lip zip, milk spout. Okay, tongue position's changing as well, changing the resonance in the oral cavity. Then one of the most important ones is the top lip. The top lip's just like a bed sheet. It's sitting there, corners are locked, zipped, but inside, hello, just waiting for some energy to hit it. I've got a curtain over here. If I was to have an air gun, I just had a thought. At Officeworks, they sell these cans of compressed air. I'm going to have one here and do it because I need to use them on my computers here in steamy Queensland because my video cards keep corroding. The dirt gets on there, then the moisture gets there, and a computer that's $3,000 lasts about 12 months. So they said spray it with oxygen. So I've got a double reason to buy oxygen cans now. If I spray oxygen, that curtain's going to go, it's going to respond to that energy. The top lip's the bed sheet just hanging there. All the action happens inside the rim. I'll stay passive. There's a little bit of movement outside, but the action happens inside. Rightio. So we've got compression. I didn't stay passive that time. Whoops, sorry. Getting that C to speak, especially on if I use my bucket here, pretty hard to get that high C to speak without engaging the body a little bit. It's just there. Regular guys would know. A month ago, I tried that. A G above the stave was tough. I'm doing some practice because I'm playing the West Side Story film soundtrack in New Zealand this weekend. So I'm having to do some work to get into shape for that, right? So as we work and focus, the response gets better in the middle because the strength, and it's not massive strength, happens at the lip zip. Can't go down that path now. There's a good exercise. Just think about this. Take it away 16-8. Do this for 16 hours, then go to sleep for 8. Do it for a week. Passive release of air, zips doing up. And consider this, there is no leak at the finger. There's no air escaping. Therefore, the lip zip is strong enough like that to hold back passive compression. That's passive and it's a mezzo forte, maybe minus, middle G. Rightio. No body activation whatsoever. So we've got the poo attack. We can become active and not blow the lips apart. They're that strong. Rightio. The lip attack. I had someone say on a video of mine a week ago. What is a cork? How do you keep wine in a wine bottle? Put a cork in it. Some people's teeth come together when they play. Back in the day, killing myself playing lead trumpet. Teeth apart, teeth together. All right. This person said on the video, my teacher forbid me from tonguing between my lips. Should never ever do that. Absolutely forbidden. There's a red flag for me as soon as I see someone say forbid. If you pick the trumpet up and put it to your ear and you squint and it sounds better, it's easier, do that. I've got a video of someone doing it. You might have seen it. There are no rules. It's just what works. And we're trying to find the most efficient way to find what works. For endurance, a lot of people that I teach are, 50s, 60s, been playing a long time, still got careers, need to maintain career, but can't fight the athletic approach anymore. Okay, well, let's let go. Let's just use what we need to, not use what we don't. Rightio. I've got a message here from Scott saying, it's to everyone, Bell's palsy, similar to focal dystonia. Everything that we're doing here, there's a cycle of T's, technical everyday elements that we go through and go, what can we do? What can we sometimes do? What can't we do? And this is a great way of finding that. Can we get the tongue between the lips? Drop the body, withdraw the tongue, release. Let the energy go, release of passive compression. If you can't do that, that's a good place to start. If you can't sit in stillness with a calm mind and a dropped body, that's a good place to start. And if you can't energize the lungs, drop, that's a good place to go. What can I do? What can I do without using any RAM? Rightio. So I know professional players that start particular phrases, not tonguing like that, but starting a phrase. It can be handy on a real soft entry or a breath attack. We won't go down that path now. But it might feel really weird for you. So imagine this. Here's an exercise that is allowing you to get your teeth apart, drawing the zips in, dropped body. That feels weird. We love weird because we're trying to find out what this system's all about. And it's about releasing compression. And that's what the tongue's role is to release the energy, to start a note. Not going into styles here. There are all different kinds of articulations based on styles. You're not going to stand up there and go, you ain't going to do that. And if you do, you're not going to get the gig, right? I wouldn't get the gig playing Haydn either, but it's a different style. You've got to work on the styles. But for the purpose of technical development, we are learning aperture corners, lip zips, milk spout, bed sheet, teeth apart, body dropped, release of passive compression. Pretty cool. Turns out, here's poo attack. Here's lip attack. Corners are set, tongue get out of the way, energy flow, sound happen. Simple system. Right, so there's poo lip. I can breathe into the horn correctly, but my lips won't go into vibration, just air. Someone's just put in a message going, I can breathe into the horn correctly, but my lips won't go into vibration, just air. We have a name for that. We don't have a little picture yet. That's called a no-note. And people go, what the hell is the value of a no-note? I'll tell you. The biggest issues that are experienced in playing are overexertion in the body, overactivation, closing off, locking, all this sort of stuff. If I can get, I don't care how old you are, whether you're 5 or 55, 85, doesn't matter. If I can get you sitting there going, Max just got, thanks, mate. Right. If I play no note, I'd sit there and watch you do it for as long as you were prepared to sit there and do it for. Why? It's repetition of pure process. That's the feeling of playing, right? Hayo's here from Europe. He's up late at night. Thank you for coming. We had a teaching Tuesdays on Tuesday night. Great session, lots of great feedback. Thank you, buddy. We had trouble getting to this process of expansion and drop, passive process. No throat engagement, no engagement. I can't remember exactly what the detail was, but we worked for a while on just getting rid of a little involuntary grab. If you consider the fact, like I said before, all the work happens inside the cup, most of it, inside the rim. The difference between a no note and playing is the same as this. Let's do a voice no note. That's a no note. There's no voice involved. Open. Now, what happens if I go to engage the vocal cords? We've added an oscillation to the energy flow. Is that any harder work to do physically? No. There's no engagement required other than a change in the voice box. Nice and loose. Ah, ha, 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 ha. So what have I changed? I've changed the lip zip in the throat, the voice lip zip. So it's the voice zip. Cord zip, zip cord. Ooh, zip cord, like that. So we've created an oscillation by engaging the vocal cords, right? Let's do the same from a no note. You draw those corners in. When they get to the right spot on the rim, that bed sheet has to take off. If it's loose, it's got lots of, what's it called? Fluffy. What do you put in? I've got moisturizer. What do you put in? Fabric softener. We don't want it to be a concrete sheet. No starch. Loose. Loose. So once you start working with those zips, milk spout, bottom lip out, bed sheet, that lip will go into a sympathetic oscillation. Now, it might be this. Great! A really, really low note. I don't call them pedal tones because people try and play pedal tones by doing all sorts of weird stuff with their mouth that doesn't relate to playing. I call them really low notes, right? You play a really low note and sit there and do it over and 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 understand that lip zip and tongue position will change your pitch. Not compression and activation in the body. It's not how it works. And again, you can engage. It put pressure into the system, but it didn't go up an octave. If I don't do that and just change the aperture, sky's the limit. How far do you want to take it? The psychology is what I'm talking about here. All right. So we need to know the psychology of what we're working on and not overactivate things. So there's our poo attack. Lip attack. Those with dystonia find this very, very, very helpful because it feels different. We like different because if there's a difference in the body, it's more prepared to accept the process and not try and fight against it because there's no expectation. Really deep stuff, guys. It's really deep. You pick this up and there might be all kinds of things go on, but all of a sudden you go, brain goes, oh, we're not trying to play. I'm not threatened now. Great. Just do that, right? We're bypassing incorrect wiring. The whole website now is about detecting errors. That's what we're doing. Every single person here can be a professional trumpet player, professional golfer, professional darts player, professional ballet dancer. Legs, arms, breath, we can all move. How many errors are we making that's stopping us from getting the result that we want? How many errors are we making? Not what do I need to do? All you need to do is watch a great ballet dancer if you want to learn how to do ballet, and then copy them, film yourself. You want to be a great tennis player, watch people, and then film yourself and go, do I look like that? Well, it looks right, but the ball keeps going out. Well, the ball keeps going out because the minute that the ball hits the strings, it's not quite right. The swing is beautiful. Big high ball toss, great rotation, whack, just keeps going out by that much. The process is fantastic, but that point when the ball hits the racket just needs a little tweak. For us, it just needs a little tweak inside the mouthpiece cup. That's the difference between a real crappy sound and a professional sound. If you know what you want to sound like, and you listen to Tina Ting Helseth or Maurice Andre or Rafael Mendez or Alison Balsam, I want to sound like them, righto? So you listen, then you record yourself and listen back. Go, okay, how many errors am I making? Now, how do I unlock the errors so I can sound like them? It's not what more do I need to do, because the lips are already strong enough. Let's go back to the airlock. Unlocking, unzipping, milk spouting, poo, lip, very handy. Double tonguing can prove to be problematic. Why? We choke off. The minute the back of that tongue goes up, the body starts to overcompress. We go into Valsalva maneuver, and we're trying to get out through the bell. But everything locks up. Tight chest, tight throat, tight lips. Double tonguing's hard. No, it's not. We make it hard because we're making an error, right? So let's go down here. There's the forward arch of the tongue. That's not the one I want. But anyway, while we're here, tip of the tongue, the part of the tongue's touching the roof of the mouth, and you release. That's for later, that one. Resume share. Why is it that when I go to change pictures, it stops the share? Here we go. Coup attack. When we start using the back of the tongue, is this a real picture of a real human? No, just an idea. Back of the tongue around there somewhere. Kangaroo, koala, kookaburra, all those other K Australian animals. The throat goes because we burn the pizza, we use the abdominals, we contract and start to choke off. It should be an independent movement of the tongue. A lot of people don't know what they're doing when they double tongue. Close your eyes. It's a release of passive compression from behind the tongue. Now you can get engaged, become active. If I'm going to go, that's double tonguing at a loud high C. Good luck doing that passively. Not possible. But I'm not closing off in the throat. I'm getting the air to the tongue and lowering the tongue, and the air comes through, past the bed sheet, into the horn, singing C. All right, there's no backup. There's no resistance. You listen to the best players in the world, and there's no instrument. There's like a direct communication from what they hear in their head to what comes out into the room. There's no mechanics anywhere in the body or the instrument that's getting in the way. Thought out. No left brain thought about the process whatsoever. That's our spiritual enlightenment brass playing, is where we just look at the notes and create the sound, right? So if we start going down the compression approach, we over compress, closes the throat off, and all of a sudden double tonguing becomes difficult. How do we work on that? We learn to get the compression to the back of the tongue, expansion and drop, and we can do yogi 1 breath or yogi 2 breath, I don't care. That's passive. Make sure the throat doesn't go. Practice your curt tonguing. How fast can you go? Right? But if you're going to get active, make sure the throat doesn't get involved. Yogi 1 breath. Make sure the throat doesn't get involved. Right? So we've got passive or active energy being released from the back of the tongue. Great way to practice this. Can hear it, can feel it. V for visualizer. Put it on your lip zips, on your aperture corners. Put a tissue there. You can see it, see the energy there. Visualizer. Okay. I'm not thinking about blowing air at the tissue there. I'm showing a demonstration of energy moving passively. And then, of course, there's already air in the instrument. There's already air here. So what happens is when I drop the curt down, the curt goes into the mouthpiece and it gets into the throat and spins around in the bell. There's an oscillation in the air column, and then it comes back from the bell and goes back into the body's concert hall. There's our system. The airflow air system is the body, the air inside the tracheobronchial tree here, oral cavity, through the lips, into the cup, out through the bell, and it's doing that through the whole system. A lot of you guys would know. Back when I'd sit there at the start of Dancing with the Stars, my psychology was the harder I blow, the less I'm going to project. Let the sound back in and resonate. How little can I do to get the most sound? So I'd be sitting there, crowd clapping, voiceover happening, red light camera, you can see it. Of course, it's just every camera in the room's looking straight at me. Not, but that's what the brain tells you. Right? Then let the sound back in. In. Release. Back in. It's a weird psychology, I know. But the other psychology is blow harder, which means engage, tighten up, and push. No! I've done that for too many years. I refuse to do it anymore. Rightio? So that whole sensation of working on this, put it on the horn. So it should be no different to poo attack, lip attack, coo attack. That's a weird one because when you drop the back of the tongue down, it takes a little while for the energy to actually get to the oscillator, to the lips. So there's this kind of delay. It's a weird sound. It's just microsecond, but it's there. Has to be. The wave, the energy has to travel further versus poo attack, it's right there. Lip attack, it's right there. Coo attack is way back there. It's got to travel. Then I showed you the second picture. Where's the forward part? Right. Oh, crikey. No. What the hell is that doing there? That is not an ad for a book. That's an error. Screen sharing is stopped as the shared window is closed. God, I hate this sometimes. Sorry, folks. Oh, there we go. That's not it. Never give up. Never, ever, ever give up. No, that's not the one. I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up. Yay! You just keep going till you get the outcome that you want. This must work. Tip of the tongue. We say cat, 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 cat. Where's the tip of the tongue? Cat, 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 cat. Behind the tip of the behind the lower teeth. So I'm coup attacking. Cat, cat, cat. Kangaroo, koala, cat, 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 cat. Tip of the tongue is behind the lower teeth. I was about to give up playing because I could not tongue from the roof of the mouth like I was being taught. And it got to the point, College of the Arts, if I don't, no, it was like I literally and anatomically am unable to play the instrument. That was my thought process. Greg, you're never going to make it as a pro player because you can't play properly. You're physically unable to do it. Literally giving up was a serious option. And I thought, well, I can't give up, excuse me, because I knew there was a book that existed called Brass Playing's No Harder Than Deep Breathing by Claude Gordon. So I can't give up and not without having read that book, because if brass playing's no harder than deep breathing, I can deep breathe. Therefore, maybe I'm doing something wrong. Lo and behold, I learned the term anchor tonguing, K-modified tonguing. All of a sudden, my world changed because I wasn't alone anymore. Poor little Greg, alone, lost in the big world of trumpet playing. I realized that he said, Herbert L. Clark, Arbin, just a couple of small names in the game, all used K-modified tonguing, to which I've gone, oh my God. And it changed everything in my existence. I am no longer the leper. I am capable of playing because they did it. I can do it. So I had to learn how to use it to my advantage. And for a while there, I was convinced that, because I read it in a book, that the moving of the tongue up and down was why the pitch changed, because it sped the air up. So I'm like, I can feel the tongue moving. You move the tongue around and it changes pitch. And I thought it for a while until someone thankfully said to me, Greg, I'll get you to consider ... Arthur H. Bernard. Read that, The Fundamentals of Musical Acoustics. And that's where I learned all about, started going down the Bernoulli principle kind of thing and learning that the aperture itself is what takes care of business. But the tongue has to change pitch, change shape in the mouth to change the resonance of the oral cavity. But it's the lips that change the pitch itself. The aperture determines the velocity through the aperture, not the compression. Whilst the compression will affect the velocity through it, that's not the determining factor of finding an overtone on a piece of pipe, an open pipe, or is it a closed pipe? I don't know. I don't do physics, but it's one of the two. I think it's closed because it's closed at one end. But we've got to select, and the best players select them the quickest with the best sound and the least work in the body. Rightio? So there's the K modified. Why K modified? Because when you say K, the tip of the tongue's behind the lower teeth. When you say that, the tip stays behind the lower teeth. Put your little finger over your bottom teeth, get the tip of your tongue to keep it under the finger, and go and feel the middle part of your tongue hit the roof of the mouth. Would you believe that's actually a drill that I use because people have a bouncing jaw, number one. So use your teeth, use your finger. And it's also separating the action of the zips in the mouth from the movement of the tongue. They are two elements that synchronize and work together, but are separate. We need to be able to control them independently. We don't want one affecting the other. So that's K modified or anchor tonguing. I do it sometimes depending on what the technical demand of the music is, right? Then, of course, you've got the traditional, I won't even bother wasting half an hour trying to get the damn picture up. The tip of the tongue at the roof of the mouth. Now, it was hammered into me, and I think it still is in the brass band world, especially after teaching a bass trombone player from London last night. Big, huge player. And he's talking about what's being taught. It's still tongue at the vertex between the teeth and the roof of the mouth. That's the way you must tongue. Well, turns out that people have different sized tongues, different jaw shapes, overbites, underbites, side bites, left bites, right bites, backwards bites, upside down bites. But you've got to get the tip of the tongue. Well, you don't gotta. You can choose to if you get the best sound. Release of passive compression. All right. Passive, active. So we can be passive or active on any of the poo, lip, coo, KMT or two. They're all just forms of releasing energy through a preset shape that's independent from the movement of the tongue. Relaxed body's going to resonate more. Let go. How much sound can I make? Check it out. If I engage the body, I'm going to make a lot more noise. Or I can go, open up and back the body off, and all of, my neighbours will be calling the people with the van and those white things soon. Open up, let go, back off. Whole concept of the body's concert hall is, let that come through the horn. Oh, for some reason, this just came in. Not what I used to do for years. And it's like this, and people go, Greg, you sound great. And I go, I'm killing myself. I'm giving up if I don't fix this. It's not right. Not right. Not right. I don't care how good you think I sound. It's not right. And one of my teaching statements is, I don't care if it sounds good. I want it to be right. I prefer the process being right and it's sounding no note. Think about that. If we get the process right, we're laying a foundation. We're not building a 5-star luxury apartment on a blooming base of custard. All right, we've got to have a solid foundation. And that comes from sitting there and going, then slowly grabbing lip zips in, milk spout, bed sheet, poo, lip, coo, KMT in 2. Then once you've got that, we can start to become active. Go, right. That's passive. This. That's all passive. There's no abdominal contraction. If you were here, I'd put your fingers on my abdominal wall and you won't feel a thing grab. All right, I got together with a professional singer, West End, the original version of Cats and the original version of Joseph, and he's learning trumpet, and he's a very theatrical kind of active guy, and I'm going to play the trumpet. Yes, I am. And so what do you reckon he does when he picks up the trumpet? He goes down that path. And I went, check this out. I went, and he had his hand on my abdominal wall and there's no contraction. He almost went white like he'd seen a ghost. I just did something that's impossible. You can't change pitch without engaging your abdominal walls, abdominals, and use your diaphragm. go down that rabbit hole. The diaphragm's an involuntary bit of stuff. It's connected by other things, and other things activate, and the diaphragm moves up and down. But don't try and control your diaphragm. I'm not saying any more. Go do your own research. Right? But the idea of use your diaphragm. Okay. No. Let go. Drop. Let's start from passive. Of course, it gets softer as we go up there. So what do? We engage. We open up. Right. It's actually not a complicated system. But what do we do when we pick up the horn? Got to buzz the lips together and blow harder to play higher. I'm sorry. No. You can do that if you want, but it's hard work and doesn't sound as good. So we've got poo, we've got lip, we've got coo, we've got KMT, we've got two. We've got a passive release of compression or an active release of compression. The active is for more volume. The shape determines the pitch. Is it 7:59? Oh, it's 8:12. Damn it. Right. Any questions? Isn't that funny? I said any questions, and all of a sudden down the rabbit hole question. If lip shape determines pitch, do you think the standing wave propagates from the oral cavity, the bronchi, or does it move depending on the pitch being created? See, all of a sudden, we're getting out of my pay grade. With the wave bouncing from inside the oral cavity to just beyond the bell and back, the lips just in the middle adjust the pitch. Any further, with everyone's physiology being different, does the size of the oral cavity have any direct effect? Yes. On the potential volume? No, not volume, but resonance, yes. Think of Pavarotti versus Carreras and the other cat. Who's got the biggest sound? Who's got the biggest echo chamber? Right? So I consider the oral cavity to be kind of an echo chamber in a way. All other things, does the size of the oral cavity have any direct effect on potential volume or pitch? No, pitch is lips. Volume is the energy through that pitch. All other things the same. Smaller cavity can't play. No. Smaller cavity can't. Well, look. See, this is where that's where you just deepest rabbit hole ever. Because of course, if you had a mouse playing trumpet, it's got a really small oral cavity, right? Is it able to? But then my brain thinks of a crow. Who stood next to a crow before? When they're going, it's loud. How does such a tiny bird make such a loud sound? So everything I'm about to say, you could go, yeah, but, and I'll go, well, right. Okay. But a mouse cannot make the resonance, create the spectrum of harmonics that our mouth can make. It's a bigger oral cavity. So it's going to have a different resonance structure in it. As far as what's the lip shape decides pitch, well, the lip shape determines the velocity of the air through the aperture, therefore the frequency at which the top lip or the lips, let's say, oscillate on that energy. If it propagates from the oral cavity, I can't answer that. I don't know. A lot of what I say is based on trying to create a psychology and understanding. I get criticized because, Greg, the voice and the way it works and the brass instruments, different science. I go, okay, great. Well, you said that playing is no harder than humming, talking, or singing. Yeah, I did say that. But it's different. The voice and the... I didn't say it was the same. I said it's no harder to hum than what it is to play the trumpet. Passive. I was right the first time. One could be nuclear, one could be quantum. I don't know, different sciences, but the same. How hard is it to create the sound? It's the same. It's as easy to play the horn as what it is to talk, hum, or sing. So I'm not getting caught up on the semantics of that. Does it oral cavity or does it move depending on the pitch being created? With the bouncing wave inside the oral cavity, just to be on the bell and back. Again, I because they're whirlpools, the idea of one flat line going through the body and back to the bell, I don't believe that's happening. I reckon there's air traveling and the pulse goes through. That's what makes the lip, sets the lip into vibration. How? I don't know. But I can tell you that when I go, the lip starts to vibrate because of it. And I've seen a model of this, if we had no chest and the body ended at just behind the lips here, and you put the instrument on top, it ain't going to sound like that. So what happens behind the lips plays a role in the depth and resonance of sound. And I think I've demonstrated that a few times in my playing, when I'm playing like that and playing, staying relaxed. I've got teaching Tuesdays where I've got people trying to unlock. Then all of a sudden they get it psychologically and they let go. I just realized something. Oh no, we're good. The body's relaxed in the hum, that's all good. And they play and it's just grabbed. There's one beautiful moment, particular guy, and I've gone, as you're playing your low C, try and let go, and then body's timpani. And he's playing, and all of a sudden he started tapping, and he's gone, opened it up, and the note went boom. There you go, just do that. Right, because there was something going on inside that he didn't recognize. That's what we're here for. What's going on that we don't recognize is happening? It's really simple, right? That's all it is. It's a simple system. Hayo, thank you for being so patient, my friend.
Hi, Greg. After rewatching my teaching Tuesday, I was surprised that I could see exactly the movement we talked about when I tongue in the higher register. It was incredible. I never felt it, but when I saw it, I understand the error, and I was able to fix it after 2 or 3 days. It was possible. Now there was another question coming up. It relates directly. Thank you.
Win-win.
It is related directly to your things you said today. When you play in a higher register, let me say an A flat, not so high but high. And now when you change between soft and loud, what is the energy in your body doing then? Is it the same energy, or is it less energy when you play softly? When you change between soft and loud, you know this exercise.
Yeah.
I made the experience when I hold this energy in my body, but close my lips a little bit more in that direction. I can play soft, and when I open it with the same energy, with the same contraction, is that right or not? what is right?
There needs to be more flow. When a car speeds up, I've never seen how a car motor works, but I've got a little bit of an understanding. When you go faster in a car, what happens? Something lets more petrol through.
Yeah.
More energy is being burnt to get more speed. When we open up, if whatever valve opened up in the car, if that opened up more, but there wasn't the fuel flow to fill that up, it's just going to break down. It needs the because oxygen's getting in. I think if you're a mechanic, help me out. I don't know. But as you put your foot down, something opens up to let more petrol through, but more petrol doesn't go through. The car's not going to go faster because there's no energy there. So what we need to do is, as we open the aperture, that's when the body becomes involved. And this is the whole problem, that we think that we've got to play using all this energy to play higher. No, you don't. I'll play it A flat passively. That was the 5 releases just then, Pulip Kuka MTM2, all passive on an A flat. Now,
Okay.
passively, after a good pull back of the bow. If you don't pull the bow back, you got no energy, then you have to engage. Pull the bow back, release. Now, the zips are starting to really have to work now because they're at A flat. A flat. But we've got to open up on the A flat. So all of a sudden we've got to open up in the middle, but that means the demand on the aperture corners here becomes more and more. And that's why all these muscles start to become involved all the way in to the rim, because they have to hold as you open up to let more energy through. If you don't open up, you burn the pizza, the throat goes, and all of a sudden you're playing like that. Right?
That is what I said. When you play soft, you have to close a little bit more. When you play loud, you have to open a little bit.
Yep. But
That's
the body,
right.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but the body has to become involved to fill the gap.
Yes, and when you go back to play soft, then you work with less body tension.
Yeah.
Is that right, or is it the same?
Well, I mean, once we get there. Naturally back off. Let's think about if you go from humming. Let's hum pianissimo after a full breath. You can feel things are activating to reduce the compression because the passive compression is too much. If I hum passive compression, but I only want to hum pianissimo, passivissimo. Oh no, that's passivissimo, but I want to do pianissimo. I have to engage the musculature to not let the body contract too fast because it's creating too much combustion, too much heat, too much energy, right? So here's passivissimo. Here's pianissimo. I have to engage down low to hold the compression back. Then when I get louder, you've got to open up and engage. So if you think of that system, what would we do with the voice? Once opening the lip for more sound, the aperture is no longer the same size, so the pitch should be affected. As a message, once opening the lips for more sound, the aperture is no longer the same size, so the pitch should be affected. And this is the whole thing. We've got our lip zip. Let's just say, now this is a simple idea. It's not a physics PhD, right? But the idea is, here's low C, here's middle C, here's high C. Low C, soft. Low C, loud. Middle C, soft. Middle C, loud. Middle C, soft. Middle C, loud. Right? So we've got to maintain frequency so that once opening the lips more, the aperture is no longer the same size, therefore the pitch should change. So the simple mechanical system, the idea behind it is that's volume, that is pitch, right? It's more complicated than that, but I'm just trying to create a simplified picture in the mind. What's this all based on? What's the biggest problem? Airlock, pinch the lips. The lips are too strong, so we've got to get them out of the way. So the way that I think about that is to go, well, let's not think vertically at all for pitch. Let's think that way and then open up for more volume. So then you've got your set for the A, and even this isn't a great picture because you could go, well, Greg, there's the corners there, and then when you open up, there's the corners there. So it's almost an invalid bloody demonstration. But this bit here is your high C, middle C, low C. The vertical is the amount of energy coming through. So the trick of what we're working on is being able to open up that way without affecting pitch. So if I go, if I don't make the aperture bigger, right, it's just going to put strain under the system. The psychology is that you're going to play higher. Well, tighten the lips, Greg, and you'll go higher. Yeah, right? So what made the pitch change? The lips. So how are you going to tighten the lips, though? Not the way I just did it, roll the bottom lip back and pinch down on the top. That's what I used to do all the time. Now it's chin down, milk spout, aperture corners in. Arch tongue. When you arch the tongue, the cross-sectional area is smaller and the air speeds up. But unfortunately, what happens is after it gets past the tongue, goes through the teeth and gets to the lips, it's back to where it was. So what happens in a river, you've got a river, and then you've got a little bit, and then you've got a river, and then you've got a lock. What's going to affect the velocity of flow through the lock? This little bit back here doesn't affect it because the flow's constant. The only thing that's going to affect it is the aperture itself, right? Again, you can have more pressure coming down that river, so the velocity is going to be more through the thing, but that little narrowing here still doesn't affect what happens here. And then you open it up, you get more flow, more energy, louder. Okay. All I'm trying to do is set a nice, hopefully logical, I hope it's logical, simple psychology of going, we're complicating things and we're prepared to go down the path of athletic muscle approach to play. Heaps of people don't know anything about what I'm talking about and are equal to the best players in the world. Great. Lucky them. I wouldn't have got there at all, maintaining the athletic pinch lips, blow harder approach. I would have given up long ago. So it took me, and for me, the whole wind works, the whole mystery to mastery happened from reading Brass Plank's No Harder Than Deep Breathing. And the interesting thing is I'm teaching two people now that learnt directly off Claude Gordon, and I have all their lessons in PDFs. How freaking cool is that? And one of them, the older guy, goes, Claude was talking about what you're talking about, the inward forward movement. And so I think in one of his early books, The Systematic Approach, he actually refers to it. And then later on, he stops doing it. So my second student, who's 10 years younger, said Claude never ever spoke about the lips because he was being misconstrued. People were misunderstanding what he was talking about. He didn't have the luxury of modern technology, video recording. If he did, I reckon the whole trumpet world would be different. But he couldn't get the message across because people were getting it wrong. I know about being misconstrued, right? So I'm trying to come up with some really basic principles to try and change the psychology of brass playing and base it on the voice. Do we need to engage the diaphragm to talk? There's your sound system right there. It's no more complex than that. How do I change pitch? Try humming, changing pitch without using the abdominal muscles. You might not be able to do it. You might be just wired. Right? You might be wired that way. Does that mean you have to do it? No. Can you play without doing it? Yes. Can you retrain yourself? Yes. If you want to. If there's value in doing it, absolutely. So I hope that makes sense. I'll stop my rant. I think it's really important. That's what I was going to say. Everything that we're doing today was based on me learning that K modified and then going down the rabbit hole and learning more and more and more and more. And that first book was, oh, hang on, I need to teach. I was writing a book for my uni students about my experience with K modified and a bunch of exercises. And when I learned that, and then the air direction started learning on the aperture, I couldn't play like it, but I understood it in a different way. And it was the change in belief system, the change in the understanding, because after all, the brain sends messages to the muscles. If the wrong muscles are working, it means the wrong messages are being sent from the brain. Let's send new messages. And so everything that we're doing here is just based on my experience of learning something new whilst being a professional player. It's not easy to make changes when you're a professional player. Or maybe it is. Maybe it's a choice. Maybe we practice this way and play this way and keep doing it. As I said to the guy last night, you're living in this building here, walls falling down, plaster's falling off, plumbing's leaking. You've got to live there. Build the new 5-star luxury penthouse apartment. Then go back and play the gig. What's the psychology there? If I keep playing the way that I've been playing, I won't learn this. And I'm like, what? So you're gonna live here, right? You're a builder. You're gonna live here, and then you're gonna go to work, and you're gonna start building this apartment block. You're gonna go home, and when you're at home, this apartment block unbuilds itself. I don't think construction works like that, right? I think you go back the next day and keep building, and you go back here, you don't turn up the next day and the building's sort of half gone and someone's stolen all the bricks. Doesn't happen. If you don't go back for 12 months, yep, it'll unbuild itself, but not overnight. So we can live here and put up with the fact that the neighbour's a nutcase, but we can build this new, aiming towards our penthouse apartment. But we've got to be slow, and we've got to be, what are we building? What errors could we make? Well, we've got to make sure that the sparky turns up before the plasterer. So we've got to make sure that happens, because if the plasterer turns up first and the sparky goes, oh, I can't do my job. Error. So you go back. Oh, well, let's try that again. Let's get the wires done first, and then I don't know how building works, but you get my point. So we're just trying to build a new habit whilst it's a diversion. It's a diversion around the bad habits to create new habits while we're having to engage the old habits to survive. I'll jump across to Greg Hayo, and I'll finish up with you, mate, because I could keep talking about this stuff for hours, but I've got a student to attend to. Greg, my friend.
Good day.
Good day, mate.
Yeah, I was watching the lesson on Tuesday, and I may have misapprehended some things because it was 4 o'clock in the morning over here. And you had the victim here who is, and he was running into something that I found to be true. When you get above about D in the staff, I find that if you tighten your abdominal muscles, just a little bit, and don't do them per note, but just have a general tightening, it becomes markedly easier to hit the next couple of notes, up to perhaps G or A.
Yep.
And I noticed the victim here was trying to do that, I think, on a per note basis,
Right.
every time. Right. And that's a habit that I had to break a long time ago.
Yep.
Because the before I got in, became one of your disciples, the fellow who was describing how to do it was big on tongue position and abdominal to change registers, which you absolutely say not to do. And I'm wondering, do you have any idea why? And I can play, you know, using, I believe, pretty close to what your method is. You know, I could start down on low G sharp, and I could slur all the way up to perhaps passively to get up almost to A or something like that above the staff. Though by that time it gets variable, and maybe there's only little squeaks and squeals and stuff like that.
Yep.
But the two things that why would tightening your abdominal muscles help in that range there? And number two, I find that once I get up near doing one of those slur exercises, in other words, I start on G to get a good solid middle G, then I slur down to low F sharp. Make sure that I'm hitting that higher, but I'm doing that off of the aperture setting at G, and then starting on that low F sharp, going chromatically up, because it's easy to picture what the next half step is going to be. Not thinking about the lifts at all, just concentrate on the fingering, and I can do passively all the way up. But when I get up to the top of that, if I get up to say F passively, and if I try to do something to increase the volume of it, which is obviously very low at that point, I can't figure out what to do to make that note louder.
Yep. Okay. So the great questions, great, really poignant questions, because it's everything that we're working on, right? Now, because you're here all the time, it's great. You've seen the fact that over, you know, the last month, I'm preparing for this gig, so I'm doing some work, and I can now passively on my bucket sustain a high C frequency. Does it sound very good? No, it's got nothing to do with the quality of sound. It's got everything to do with the psychology and the process, right? So around fourth space E, this is where all the trouble begins, right? I've had people do the singing C series and cannot even passively get can't even get that to remotely speak, because they're so rolled in, so clamped and so pinched that they can't even get the note to speak, right? So the reason that the notes are starting to speak when you increase combustion and start to turn the heat up on the pizza, and as a friend of mine said on Facebook last night, he goes, I burnt the pineapple on my pizza. I should have had the temperature aloha. Temperature aloha. And I laughed a lot. Don't burn the pineapple. A lower temperature is what he said. I should have had a lower temperature. That's the kind of people I hang out with. So we need your oscillator is not conditioned to respond to the passive compression. So what you're resorting to is an increase in combustion and a grab of the lips in order to get the oscillation happening, right? So the whole essence of everything that we're doing is to get that smaller oscillator in the middle to respond to less compression. We're pulling the energy away. And what I see all the time is when we pull the compression away, the mouth changes and people start playing really low notes, because the messaging in the brain's like, oh, you're not active in the body, therefore you must be playing lower, and the mouth lets go. That's what we're changing. We're changing that and going, I can pull the compression away completely and still play above the stave. It's just a wiring thing. So we get to the E flat there. Oh, all of a sudden I increase the compression and I can grab the lips a little bit, the note will speak. Absolutely. let's learn to not do that. So the whole essence of the Singing C series is don't do that. Wait till exercise number 2, which allows us to start and add that extra compression by starting to get louder. And then find out at what point from passivissimo to loud, at what point on that timeline does the note start to propagate? It might not be right until the end, or it might be halfway through, it might be right at the start. And then when it does start to engage, does the throat go? Right. So sit there playing no notes, find that E and go, yes, I can blow harder to make the note happen. That's in effect what you're saying. I have to blow harder to get the note speaking, and all of a sudden it's easier to play. Yeah, because your lips are conditioned to respond to more compression. Let's train them to not need as much compression in order to get the result.
Now, when I try what I call my grande scala passivissimo, where I start it at low F sharp, and you go and you don't think about the lips at all, right?
Yep.
And by starting at middle G and going down there, you know your aperture is set right, and go up a half step.
I wasn't quite sure I understood before, but now that you've said it again, I'm perceiving when you say that the aperture's set right, are you talking zips and rim on the corner? Because there is a substantial difference between a middle G and a low F sharp as far as the inner workings of the cup go.
Yeah.
So,
and that's why I don't want to start down on G sharp, because a low G sharp, because you're probably doing something funny.
Right. Okay, well, I'm loving what you're saying now. So we're going to go. So the corners are pretty much the same set, but inside the rim, obviously, it's.
Yeah, and I'm not doing it nearly that fast. I'm not doing it long or anything, but just and then when I get down there, I don't take the mouthpiece away, but I make sure I got as loud a low F sharp as I can play.
Yep.
Then concentrating solely on the fingering and not being conscious of the lip. Go chromatically all the way up, and I can routinely get up to about G, high G, and then sometimes up to A, and then sometimes a few more squeaks above that. And what it also tells me is how little air, because you got very little air at that point, how little air it takes to make those sound, and how little difference there is between those notes. And I find if you do it like that as a continuum, rather than a discrete series of steps, lips will sort of do it automatically.
Sure. If you've done the drills and trained them, and almost subconsciously what they're doing, then it will do. That's the idea. We don't want any left brain RAM involved at all, right? Yeah. So when you get out of the way, but a good observation is when you're doing it, where do I cut off? Where does it stop? Where do I lock off? Where, what? What's happening? Where does it happen? Does it have to? What does it feel like? These are the questions we're always asking ourselves. And
but if you go past where you hit the air ball or the no note, sometimes try a couple more and you'll get a couple of verses to the notes, squeak, squeals and stuff like that. So
as anyway, Roger Ingram says, from squeaks come notes. Yeah. No sound, bad sound, good sound. There's a nice little timeline. But see, that Singing C series, all I'm after is the sensation of this. Then so it's one consistent, continuous low C as far as everything below the neck goes. Find the shape of the C. Then, as we start to... as we start to engage the body, we've got to open up, but the corners have to keep the pitch. Do we start going down there? No. But some stage will do. And depending on the mouthpiece cup. It's funny when I put my trombone mouthpiece in. It's a little bit more difficult. The body wants to go down this. Doesn't have to. But my chops aren't conditioned to play lead trumpet on that size mouthpiece. I can play it on this size mouthpiece, but it's not the sound I want, and you lose more energy, so it's a bit harder. With my lead mouthpiece, all of a sudden, oh, amazing! I can sustain that really easy. Right? That's what we're on the lookout for. Where do we lock off? Close up, close the throat, burn the pizza. Throaticulation. Right. Thanks, Greg. Awesome thoughts.
Okay.
I'm going to finish up now because I could easily sit here and talk for hours and hours and hours. There is no Teaching Tuesdays this week, and there's no Sunday sessions next week because I am in NZ. Looking forward to getting over there to Wellington. Should be really nice and fun. Matt, where are you, Mr. Verrill? Are you up north or are you down south? Or
Yeah, I'm up in Auckland, so I'm working next weekend too. So I'd love to come and hear you. But
yeah, man. We will catch up one day. I'll get it back over to Auckland. So closing thoughts for the day. Hayo, the stage is yours, my friend.
Thank you, Greg. Only some words. Thank you for all stood up very early last Tuesday, and maybe you can put the link in our support group. It is not there yet.
I haven't put
the
your
link of Teaching Tuesday. No, you have not.
Not in Teaching
Yes,
Tuesday.
maybe.
Oh, okay. I will do that.
The others can watch it.
Yes.
Can I make a point here? It is under videos, Hale. It's under, there's some a video link now. So on the left side, it is there. I did see your lesson. It was very informative.
Okay. It's not under
it's on
Teaching Tuesday.
No, it's on the dashboard, and I didn't put it into the support group. Yeah.
Yeah, it's under new videos. Yeah.
Yeah. My mistake.
Okay.
I apologize.
Thank you.
I've literally, I stopped, I reckon, yesterday, and sort of went, and then I snapped out of it. My brain, RAM just ran out. I'm cooked, absolutely cooked. And so I make a little mistake in not putting that in the Teaching Tuesday, so I apologize. Yeah, it's all very brain intensive stuff, especially doing this, and then a lot of things going on. It's really, really groovy, but occasionally the brain just goes, Greg, give me a break, please. So what do? Go and play golf, because that's a good rest of the never ends. I will put that up as soon as we hang up from here. Hey, all. Thanks, guys. I hope this has been of use. It's a really fun, interesting journey that we're on. Where it goes, nobody knows, but please send links and stuff to people. I'm trying to help spread this word so we stop pinching the lips down and burning the pizza. All right, that's it. I'm going. Goodbye. Thank you. Have a great week. So I'll see you in a fortnight. None next week. Ciao.